All right, so here we want to use the intermediate value theorem to show that this polynomial, 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus 8x plus 2, has a real root between -5 and -4. All right, what does that mean that it has a real root? And to have a real root, it means that essentially this graph will cross the x-axis between -5 and -4. Okay? So that means that there's a number between -5 and -4 such that if we evaluate that function, we get 0. Okay? But that also means that if we evaluate f of -5, right, whatever f of -5 is, and then we evaluate f of -4, okay, one of these answers should give us a positive result, and one of these should be negative. Okay, because remember, that's the y value. So we're assuming that in between -4 and 5, the y value is equal to 0, which means on one side, it's either above the x-axis or below it, right? And on the other side, it's either above and below, right? But it can't be both. So once we plug both of these values into the function, one of them must be negative, and one of them must be positive. Okay, so let's go ahead and evaluate this. Okay, so we'll plug in the -5 here, and then 6 times -5 squared minus 8 times -5 plus 2 will calculate this, right? And remember, it doesn't matter if this answer is positive or negative or not. Okay, but what does matter is that the other one, right, f of -4, should be opposite sign. Okay, so what do we get in this case? -5 cubed is -125. Okay. -5 squared is 25 times 6, which is 150. And we'll change that sign to give us a 40 plus 2. Okay, this is -250 plus 150. We can actually just add all this together, right? Plus 42, right? So -250 plus 192, right? This is going to give us a negative answer, right? This is going to be -58. Okay? So we plugged in -5 and we got -58 as the answer. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that if we plug in -4, remember, we don't care what the number is, but we should get a positive answer. Okay? And that will conclude, we can conclude then that between -5 and -4, right, this graph is going to cross the x-axis. Okay? So let's go ahead and we'll figure this one out, right? So -4 cubed is 64 times 2 gives us -128. -4 squared is 16. 16 times 6 is 96. Plus 32 and plus 2 here. Right? So -128 plus 96 is -32 plus 32 plus 2. And that actually, this just equals what? Positive 2, though. Okay? Remember, it doesn't really matter what number it is. All that matters is that f of -5 gave us a negative answer. F of -4 gives us a positive answer. So because these signs are opposite, right, what does that mean? It means that in between -5 and -4, this graph has to cross the x-axis, right? Now, we don't need to sketch this out, right? But check this out. Here's -5, right? Here's -4, right? At -5, right, the y value is -58, somewhere down here. I'm just eyeballing it here, right? But at f of -4, what is the y value? The y value is positive 2. So if we were to draw this graph, right? If we were to draw this graph, what can we conclude? Right? It means that between -5 and -4, the graph has to cross the x-axis somewhere, right? Which means that there is a 0 in between -5 and -4. Now we can't find it, right? But we're using the intermediate value theorem to show that there is a 0 between -5 and -4.